All right, so this is going to be on a virtual lab setup, specifically for what I use on my laptop when traveling. So this will be slightly different than most other labs setups that most people have talked about. All right, who am I? All right, I'm a senior voice engineer for AT&T Global Business. In my real job, I also have 18 years of military service. And I'm a graduate student at the Champlain College in Digital Forensics. I also do have a blog and LinkedIn, Twitter, as noted on this slide. You'll see the slide at the end if there are any. So I've been doing digital forensics studying for about 2 years. So this is part of the digital forensics school that I've been doing to do my schoolwork, to travel. That's why I created this lab. All right. And of course, disclaimer, anything I say does not reflect AT&T or the Air National Guard. All right, so I go virtual. All right, so the Dell on the left is actually the computer I currently use. It is a M4800 with a 4th gen CPU, which is, of course, only about 15 pounds. The stack on the other side is something you could have in your house. It's actually a picture from the Reddit Home Labs thread. One of their actual home labs. So again, you can't carry a whole stack of servers when you travel, or we have minimum space, but you can carry around this Dell computer, which is why I have it. The computer that I got was free, so I actually acquired this through somebody else. It was an old architect's workstation. What does it have in it? It's an Intel i7-4900MQ. It's a 4th generation. I suggest getting something a little newer. It's only a 4-core. I did max out the RAM at 32 gigs with 2.5 terabytes storage. The 2 terabytes I put in RAID, which works fairly well, even though they're two different style of drives, both SSDs, but different style of SSDs. The 500 meg is what I'm using for my operating system. And if you have any questions, just post them in the chat or in the Discord. All right, this works all right. I'm not going to say it doesn't work. It is a bit slower than what most people probably want, and more cores is potentially better. So hardware, as I mentioned, cores. All right, more cores you have, the better. Some of the newer Intels, AMDs have 8 cores, 16 threads. Those are great. I wish I had one. And as much memory as you can get, because all of your VMs are going to load in memory. And whether you go for Intel or AMD, it doesn't really matter if it's free. But AMD is slightly better on multitasking, on multi-threading for a task of this. So my choice go AMD if you have a choice, but free is always better. So just get whatever you think would work. But either one would work. There is another caveat. Make sure your CPU supports the virtual extensions. So make sure most newer CPUs support them anyway, but make sure they're enabled. Check whatever motherboard or computer you have to enable them. All right, so this whole lab started from this blog post, which I'll post the link and the slides in the chat. On Hacking and Coffee, it's a red team laptop. And infrastructure, it's a really cool blog I ran across. So if you get a chance, check it out. If you do red team assessments, it's more geared towards red team, where my lab is more geared towards blue team or just other types of virtual labs that you might want to set up. Network diagram. So this is a network diagram that I'm actually using. So I have a virtualized firewall, which I'm using pfSense, and 3 different zones. All right. And as you see here, I've listed each zone, which you'd put in each different zone. What I end up doing is I turn my computer on, I log in, and then I start another VM that I use for my work personal stuff inside of this computer, and then I run other VMs up next to it. It can be a little odd to move around the VMs because it's a laptop, and it's not like you have 6 27-inch monitors that you can move around. It's a little harder than that. Untrusted zones, DFR, pen test, whatever questionable content you may have. And then Semi-trusted, some people put music and research in there, OSINT stuff, you put in semi-trusted. The firewall primarily is to keep all your VMs segregated, but also you can still go between one and the other. So you could just say, I want to take all these VMs and NAT them right to your interface, which you could do. But that would also open you up for a whole bunch of other problems when you try to segregate traffic or monitor that traffic from different VMs to different sections. However, this is one way to do it. This is another way of doing it. This moves your untrusted zone to a router VM. Some people might want to do this because if I turn that router VM off, I'm turning off the network activity for your untrusted zones. So you're not worried about any traffic getting out. This might be beneficial for a lot of people instead of doing it the other way. So you have this way, which goes to the firewall, which if you were to disconnect your untrusted zone, you would have to go and modify your firewall VM or the firewall itself to turn off your connectivity. Or you can use another VM, just turn the VM on and off, and that would disconnect you from the internet. So either way would work. So hypervisors. So why am I doing this? So I use a type 2 hypervisor, which is listed here on the right. I'm using VM Workstation. So there's two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is VMware, vSphere EXSI hypervisor. Proxmox is a open source tool you can use instead of VMware. All right. Some people like it better. I did not use type 1 because you have to use another computer to manage it. You can't manage it on the same system. That does not work for me. But if you had a computer in your house, you want it to do the same thing I'm doing here, you'd use a type 1 hypervisor. For type 2, you have VirtualBox, any software that runs virtualized software. So VirtualBox, VMware, Parallels. Parallels is the Mac software, which runs on top of an OS. In this case, I'm actually running Arch Linux, which I'll get to here in a little bit. All right, so this is type 2. I'm running Arch Linux. Windows Manager is i3. And then I'm running Windows VM Workstation Pro. And if you notice all the VMs on my computer right now, this is actually a screenshot from my current laptop. And I have some OSINT VMs, I have Security Onion, I have some Cisco collaboration stuff. This is all running on the same box. The top in this screenshot, the top and bottom are fully customizable for this workstation that I'm using. So I can change those and display any information that I want, which is why I prefer to use i3 because it's very small. Now, could you use another version of operating system? Yes, you could use Ubuntu, you could use CentOS, you can use a lot of other types of operating systems. I'm choosing Arch Linux and i3 for a low footprint. I want all my processing power, memory, everything else, I want to go to their VMs. That's where all my work's being done. So I install the bare minimum on the host itself. All right, and now you get to choose your own adventure, which I'll go into how I chose some of the different hardware and software. I've explained some of it so far. And the operating system, my confused cat here. Again, it doesn't matter which operating system you choose, whatever you're familiar with. My suggestion is to use an operating system that is low maintenance, doesn't use a lot of resources. I find Arch Linux to be that way. Has great community, but if you want to use Ubuntu or Debian or Fedora or any of the other operating systems, you could very well do the same thing. The lab itself is agnostic. It doesn't matter which operating system you use to run VMware or VirtualBox on top of. And then Windows Manager, I talked about i3 a little bit. It's a tile in Window Manager. So it actually has boxes. Every time I open a box, it's a different tile, so nothing overlaps. Low resources, you can customize it however you want. Again, choose your own adventure. If you want to use GNOME, use GNOME or some other Windows Manager that you choose, that you want to use, and there are a bunch of them out there. I might end up going to another Windows Manager called Fluxbox, which is very similar to i3, but has better mouse support to move windows around. And this is i3. So it's another screenshot. This shows two windows open side by side, two command windows. You can actually move your cursor between them and it'll highlight which one's active, and you can type in both of them. And they don't float, so they're not going to overlap or anything. So I think it's really cool the way it's set up, and it works really well for running commands next to each other or adding a file and then showing the output on the other screen. But again, this is, you can choose to do it this way. You can choose to use another Windows manager. Firewall. There are several types of firewalls that you can use. pfSense and OpenSense I've actually used. There's also SureWall, which is made on top of IP tables. pfSense is probably the easiest for most people to set up. And you basically use a ISO, load in your VM, and walk through some simple steps, and it'll set it up. There is some setup for getting the different zones I talked about earlier and to work with pfSense or OpenSense for that matter. And that is listed on my blog, which I'll post later, on specifically what settings I set up. I'm not going to go into it at the moment in this presentation. So you can just choose whichever firewall. They all will do something similar. Virtual machine, same thing here. Choose whichever virtual machine. It will all work in all the virtual machines. So whether you like VMware or Parallels, which are paid, or VirtualBox, I will say, and this is from experience, VMware's memory management is better than VirtualBox. VirtualBox eats up memory really, really quickly when you run on some VMs. So you need to be aware of that when you're shopping around for what VM solutions. Now, these aren't the only solutions. You can use KVM or some type of Docker container, which Jeff was talking about earlier, to run your VMs if you so choose. I find these are probably the three easiest to use for most people. Virtual machines. What virtual machines can you have? Now, this slide has a whole bunch of stuff on it. Kali, of course, most people know it. Especially Black Arch, I misspelled it. Flare, which is like a reverse engineering platform. Renox, which is another memory analysis. Surgai, SIFT, those are digital forensics. You have ParrotOS, which a lot of people like that for security. Talos, which is based on Docker. And Red Hat Linux, which is for threat hunting. So these are all different types of virtual machines and many more that you can just come up with and create whatever type of lab environments you want and then connect them any way you want. So you can, where to go next for this? You could either go to the start.me page. I have a whole bunch of lists there. I also have the blog post listed that I talked about earlier, which shows how I set the first steps of this up. There is some customization that I did in i3 that I don't have posted. And then Black Hill Security, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, someone corrected me in the chat, did a how to build a home lab. Theirs is a physical lab, not a virtual lab. So they were talking about physical firewalls and physical computers. Oh, okay, 3 or 4 weeks ago, as someone said in chat, using physical hardware, which works great if you have the space for it. But as you can see behind me, I have my sheet over here because I'm in a shared space. So I don't have a lot of room, so I can't have a huge server stack. And in Reddit, there are 3 different places on Reddit you can look: r/home labs, r/home lab cells, and r/home server. Are other 3 resources you could use to figure out what you want, how you want to build it, and is anyone giving any free or low-cost stuff away. Our contact information again. One thing to remember about, a lot of people point out security. Is the virtual lab secure? It's only as secure as your host environment. There are some malware, there are some viruses that will break out of our virtual machine. It's possible. Not as widespread as others, so you do still need to be careful. Is it better to run it on a full server? Sure. If you have access to one, go for it. But, when you don't have a lot of room and you don't have a lot of space, so one of these, a laptop might work. you know, and maybe a 15-pound laptop most people don't like, but this is the laptop here. But, you know, it works really well for what I need it for. And if there's any questions, you can post them. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the CTF information. And like I said, virtual labs, you know, this is a really quick run through. It's better to read the blog post I posted earlier, which I'll post in the chat, on to get specifically all the little things that I did to do this. And it's, like I said, it works really well. But if you have a server, use that instead. Yeah. All right, so for the CTF, hold on one second. There are two CTFs right now. The first one is this one. So this is the All Armies CyberStakes. You can get to it from cyberstakes.aci.ctf.com. However, you have to make, if you're going to participate in it, you need to have a .mil, a government, or an educational email address to be able to register. There is and if you do register for it and want to participate, let anyone from the staff volunteers know, and we'll add you to the right group for role. And so I've done some of these, and all the CTF is you're doing very simple. Well, I say simple. Some of those are really hard. So that it will give you questions and a flag. And on this particular one, all the flags are ACI, curly brackets, a flag, some flag name, and a closed curly bracket. They're that way unless they say otherwise. All the way down, there are different ones. This one says the security manager is confident no one can break his encryption. Actually, let's see what his encryption is. Yep, and that's correct. This is where you need the Relevance box, which I'll go into in just a second. I'm going to give you another tool as well, another web page to go to. So if you look here, you've got if you notice, this is in the flag format. More likely, IK and U is ACI, but it's encoded. Anyone want to guess in the chat or on Discord what type of encoding this is? That XOR? Oh, we try it. That would be one. So this over here. All right, CyberChef. This is like if you're doing any type of encoder and decoding or anything like that, this is a great tool to use it. And it does a whole bunch of stuff. Chat said XOR. Now, if I just pull XOR over here, you notice you need a key. I don't have a key, but there's also a brute force. So the brute force, what it does, it creates a key and it goes down here. It tries every key until it gets a known stuff. Now, this crib right here, I know that the first three letters are probably ACI, and it apparently does not work. So I'm actually going to try this. I'm going to do ROT 13. ROT 13 is a Caesar cipher. And Oh, too far. And that would be your key. My first choice was Route 13 of CyberChef because this format, when you already have the curly brackets in there, and that CyberChef doesn't change the curly brackets. So this is one site you can solve several of the challenges. So if you're playing with CTF, just keep this up. And then, hold on a second. Roberto asked about the Linux machine. I'm sorry, I'm in the my VM right up here. Surguy, which is in the I posted a link on a video that I put together. Oh, this one's apparently far off. That one's not work apparently. Does this work? So I posted a video on how to install this from the CD image. And for the most part, you can probably do most of it from here. If you don't want to use Surguy and you're familiar with something like ParrotOS security or Kali Linux, you could do that as well. Right, so this one has a whole bunch of stuff. The other thing, this one has it as well. What's that? There's all these different tools in here. A ton of tools. Just saw the other day. It has CyberChef installed in here too. I can find it. There's a whole bunch of these fast recovery, malware analysis, XOR stuff. And not everything in this you'll use for some of these CTFs. Some of them you will. And like timeline analysis, Autopsy is really good if you're doing timeline stuff. This one I seem to have. The other VM I have actually have CyberChef's actually installed. Maybe I must have did that myself. So some of the other things. So here's a binary. This is from another CTF. One that you'll run across. Type here. Run strings. So strings prints out every readable character in a binary. And if you notice, the flag for this particular CTF is right there. So another I'm not even having to run the file at all to solve the challenges. And the challenges come in a lot of different variations. These are just some different variations of different challenges I've seen. Are there any questions so far? Oh yeah. So I guess I'll talk about this real quick. So Word documents, they are just zip files. This is a Word document I've changed the indent to zip. If you notice, there's a flag.txt in here. That's your flag. So so flags can appear things. So one of the things I can say about when you do the CTFs is take your time on it. Google is your friend. Sometimes you'll find a site where the exact information on that site is what they use to create the challenge. You just have to read it and then figure out what they did, which is usually pretty easy. Other times, like this one, it's in plain sight. Like you just download it, unpack it, and it's right there. And now people are wondering, why are some of these challenges so easy? So why should I do it? It's to solve puzzles using tools you use every day. Maybe use your tools in a different way. Something you didn't think about. Hey, that tool does that. One of my probably favorite tools is file. The file tells you what type of file it is, and that's something that you probably want to do if you don't know. If you download a file for one of these challenges, or if you receive a file, like they were talking about phishing earlier. You receive a file, you're not sure if it's an actual PDF. You can drop it into this Linux machine, run a file on it. It'll tell you, is it an actual PDF or a PNG or something else like that. Another thing you can do is bin walk. This will show if there's anything else hidden in the file. It's just an ELF is a executable for Linux, but it'll say if there's other executables inside the file. So something that you should be aware of whenever you download any file from the internet and want to verify that's what it says it is before you run it. So I'm actually going to probably be working on the Army CTF in Surgai, and I will be in the chat. And I'm probably going to keep the webinar open in case anyone has any questions. I can show anything or answer anything directly. And please ask. This is a time to work on hands-on, get and learn those abilities. If you have an issue with setting up a Linux box to do this, or a Windows box, depending on what you want to do, just let me know and we'll walk you through it or whatever that needs to be done. So with that, I'll let you all have it at the CTF, and I'm going to go play on the CTF as well. So for the Army one, there is if you go to scoreboard, you can see a scoreboard for everybody who's currently participating and what their scores are. And if you saw me earlier, I only have 8. So hopefully everyone has more than 8 right now.